Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this licensing committee on the 12th of March. Could I ask everybody's got mobile phones off in the gallery, please? And I'm aware that some may be... Can you hear myself on echo? Some people might be breaking fast, sorry, so I've allowed late entry so long as it's quiet and uninterrupted, if that's okay.
Chair?
Yes?
Can our attendance break at 6:10? And I think people upstairs might want to break also. In the gallery. For 5-10 minutes?
5 minutes? Okay. I'll allow that then. At what, 6:10? Okay. Can you put your hand up and remind me at 6:10? Because I'll just forget. Any apologies?
I've got Councillor Hudson and Councillor Sando.
Councillor Potter?
Councillor Potter as well.
Thank you. I've got no late items. Any declarations of interest, please? No. Item 4, minutes of the last meeting held on the 6th of February. Any comments? Yeah. Councillor Bond.
Yeah, good evening. Councillor Sarah Bolton, Blakery's ward. The item on page 3, taxi licensing fees and charges, that goes on to page 4. Can I ask if the issue's resolved as listed on the bottom of page 4? Are there any updates, particularly regarding the point 3, please?
I have got scheduled in the diary an update meeting with the head of service next week. So not for this meeting, but I have got an update meeting next week. Okay? 100%. Thank you. Any further questions and minutes? You're happy to move? Thank you. So we'll move on to item 5, which is cumulative impact assessment. And I believe we have... Is it going to be presented by officers and then the police, or... Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to give a summary, Chair, and then pass over to the police colleagues.
Thank you.
Okay, what I'm going to start with is give a summary position on the cumulative impact assessment to refresh people's minds. So historically, on the 12th of October 2011, following an evidenced request by Derbyshire Constabulary and a full public consultation, a cumulative impact policy was incorporated into our Statement of Licensing policy. This was subsequently reviewed and retained at 3 yearly intervals since then, the last being 2019. For this review, the Licensing Authority received evidence from Derbyshire Police, the Licensing Authority and the City Centre Neighbourhood Manager supporting retention of the existing saturation zone. That you will see at Appendix 2 of the report. As an overview and for clarification, the Home Office guidance defines cumulative impact as the potential impact on the promotion of the licensing objectives of a number of licensed premises in one area. Such could be the type and density of premises in one area, nuisance and disorder outside a set of premises, and or flashpoints such as late night refreshment premises. Any CIA created by the Licensing Authority must be summarised in the Statement of Policy, and that is so. A cumulative impact assessment has to be underpinned by evidence, very similar to that previously relied on. Any such evidence should generally be suitable basis for refusal of an application or for supporting the imposition of conditions where appropriate. That means that a licensing authority will still be able to grant licences within the zone where it considers it appropriate, and should not therefore be seen as a barrier to growth or development. Should a licensing authority wish to publish a CIA, it must first go through a period of consultation, and the proposed CIA document at Appendix 1 was released for a 12-week consultation period ending on the 25th of February 26. The persons referred to in 4.1.4 of the report were consulted directly, and the consultation was also available online. The General Manager from Pride Park Stadium and our own Trading Standards team both responded to say they had looked through the proposed document and had no comments to make. 4.2 contains a précis of the detailed response received from Derby Pub Watch, which, in summary, does not report retention of the CIZ. The full response of that is appended at Appendix 3. More specifically, at 4.2.2, it details recommendations from Pub Watch, in which includes a targeted...
Sorry, Angela, can I just interrupt? Can we switch devices off in the gallery, please? Thank you.
More specifically, at 4.2.2, it details recommendations from Pub Watch, in which includes a targeted alternative framework, allowing for geographical refinement, premises differentiation, time-banded controls, clear routes to grant, measurable indicators. It's my understanding at this stage that Brighton and Hove have actually removed their cumulative impact zone in favour of a city safe area and the introduction of a good operator policy. In recent years, several East Midlands councils, including Nottingham, Birmingham, Melton and Leicester, have taken the decision to remove their cumulative impact. Some of the reasoning behind those decisions are the perceptions that operators that a presumed refusal of applications within the area. Also, the perception is that there is a barrier to regeneration, and the fact that there are numerous other pieces of legislation which can be used to manage the inherent problems associated with alcohol and the nighttime economy. Derby City Council has the purple flag to its benefit, and the management of the city centre is a driver for that award and, in fact, for the retention. The purple flag is an accreditation process similar to the blue flag for beaches or green flag for parks, and recognises towns and city centres that offer an entertaining, diverse, safe and enjoyable night out. Taking all that into consideration, Chair, the recommendations for this matter are that the committee consider the content of this report and decide on one of the following options: whether to publish a statement that the authority remains of the opinion that a CIZ is still needed, or publish a statement that the authority is not of the opinion it is needed. Should the committee decide to retain the CIZ and the document at Appendix 1, we would ask that that is approved to take effect from the 1st of April 2026 and published accordingly. On the back of that decision is a further recommendation in that the committee authorise licensing officers to consult with Pub Watch and the Constabulary to develop a targeted alternative framework and bring a feasibility report to a future meeting. We have our colleagues from Derbyshire Police with us. They are sitting behind me, and Chair, that's the end of my submission.
Thank you. So if we're going to take this adjournment now, for 5 minutes, if that's okay. The gallery will need to be clear, though, if we are adjourning. Okay, we're ready to reconvene. That's fine, thank you. So we'll reconvene with the responsible authority. You might want to just wait until... Come in, can you be quiet? Maybe. Okay, can we have quiet, please, and then we'll carry on with the meeting. Thank you.
Chair and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Inspector Daniel Handley-Farrell and I'm the Force Licensing Inspector for Derbyshire Constabulary. I'm here on behalf of the Chief Officer to set out why Derbyshire Constabulary fully supports the renewal of the CIP for Derby City Centre. The Licensing Act 2003, as amended by the Policing and Crime Act 2017, enables the creation of a CIA when the density of licensed premises is undermining the licensing objectives. The evidence you've had before you in your appendices clearly demonstrates that Derby City Centre continues to face those challenges. This policy is not about restricting business growth, it is about ensuring safe, sustainable and well-managed development of the nighttime economy. If I turn myself to the density of licensed premises, the city centre makes up only 1% of the geographical area of Derby City Council, yet contains over 24% of all licensed premises. This level of concentration inevitably generates a greater risk. Between September 2020 and August 2023, Derbyshire reported 27,322 nighttime economy crimes, of which Derby City area accounts for a disproportionately high number. In Derby City alone, there were 5,429 NTU-related crimes, with 80% occurring within the single lower super output area. This is the area covered by the existing CIP. The most common offences recorded were violence without injury, violence with injury, public disorder and criminal damage. These are direct threats to the licensing objectives. There are patterns in time. The crime peaks Friday night into early hours of Saturday, Saturday night into the early hours of Sunday. This is midnight until 4 a.m. This aligns precisely with peak alcohol-related activity. Some have argued that the nighttime economy has contracted and that venue closures reduce the risk. However, our evidence shows that the concentration of crime and disorder and emergency demand remains centred precisely in the CIP. Closures have not reduced footfall or risk, they've redistributed it amongst the remaining venues. Within the pack, you'll see the emergency department data. Since 2018, Royal Derby Hospital has recorded 6,242 assault-related attendances within the emergency department. 55.6% arriving between 6 p.m. and 4 a.m, over half occurring between Friday and Saturday. 345 of these assaults occurred inside licensed premises, with 87 within the CIA boundary. This tells us harms are occurring inside the venues, not only in public spaces. There is limited ED rates. This is a national challenge, as it's not a formal requirement for the NHS to record, but this is the information we've got. This data alone cannot be used to say there is an impact, but combined with the crime data, does show that there is clearly an overwhelming amount of crime within the area. There is an impact on policing resources, as you'll have seen in my pack. Policing of Derby City nighttime economy requires 10 police officers, 1 sergeant and 1 inspector. That's each weekend night. This is a significant deployment for a single urban area in Derbyshire. The CIA allows us to anticipate demand, deploy resources efficiently, challenge high-risk licence applications and reduce alcohol-related violence. As confirmed in this statement by Chief Inspector Chris Thornhill, the CIA is a crucial tool that directly contributes to the crime reduction and public confidence. If I turn to our partnership work, Derby's nighttime economy is jointly managed through the Derby Nighttime Economy Partnership Tactical Meeting. That involves the Constabulary, the City Council licensing officers, the City Council community safety officers, CCTV operators, Derby Live, the University of Derby, street pastors and other third-party organisations. The partnership reviews crime trends and responds collectively to emerging risks. The renewal of the CIP strengthens our ability to manage growth responsibly, uphold the licensing objectives, and maintain a safe and vibrant nighttime economy. The renewal of this policy is supported by the Council's community safety team, as shown within the supportive statement. Pubwatch is right to highlight the strength of our partnership standards, but those standards do not eliminate the risk, and they do not do anything to manage the density or late-night movement and alcohol-fueled public space violence. Good operators cannot control what happens in the street once customers leave. The CIA fills that gap. Why is it necessary? Despite some recent reductions in the incident numbers, Derby City Centre remains the highest area in the county for nighttime economy crime and ASB. Without a CIP, the area risk oversaturation, crime and disorder would increase, police and health services would be further stretched and community confidence would decline. The CIA provides a balanced, legally supported framework to ensure new applications are thoroughly scrutinised, not blocked, but required to show they will not add to that impact. Chair, members, the evidence is clear, consistent and compelling. High density of licensed premises, high concentration of violent crime, peak time pressures on police and services, strong operational benefits and continued need for control and oversight. For these reasons, Derbyshire Constabulary formally recommends the renewal of the policy. The policy remains essential for protecting the public, supporting economic growth, ensuring a balanced and sustainable nighttime economy and upholding the 4 licensing objectives. The CIA is not a blanket ban. It is a safeguard that ensures Derby's nighttime economy continues to grow responsibly, not recklessly. It enables high-quality operators to come forward while preventing saturation and protecting the licensing objectives. On this basis, the evidence to renew remains compelling. We will support the Council throughout this process and continue in looking at the implementation of further schemes. I'm happy to take any questions.
Councillor Pandy.
Thank you, Chair. I think there are many councils which have that have ditched this CIZ recently. I'm sure the Derbyshire Police must be aware of that. And also, with the licensing policy, the basic is one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that we don't preempt. We go on the evidence, how much of that particular thing has impacted. So is there an evidence-based approach on saying that if this is not in place, then by what percentage crime or disorder has gone up in the area? It's because this is, when I hear the report, when I hear the presentation, it says like this will reduce and this will sort of this will lead to this. But on what basis? If Derby aspires to be a place where nighttime economy has to boom, then don't you think this restriction is basically keeping Derby behind by having a restriction in place, using that the licenses can be restricted and the opening hours can be restricted? So won't Derby thrive more if this restriction is not in place?
Yes, as Angela did mention, there are some councils that have removed the CIZ policy. There are also some councils that have reintroduced it once removing it. If I bring us down to economic growth, unfortunately, Derby has seen some negative press in relation to crime and disorder within the Derby city centre. Therefore, it is my belief that no, removing it would not help Derby grow. It would lead to further negativity, and a policy to help reduce that would actually be better economic growth for Derby rather than allowing a number of venues to open and is becoming places with higher crime and disorder.
Councillor Khan.
I just want to ask the boundaries. Is the boundary same as previously, or have you extended the boundary? I see here that in a Breton ward, they just the boundaries as far as Wilmot Street. So have you extended the boundaries, or is it the same as before? Thank you.
The boundary of the CIZ has remained the same. The reason that was selected is we've looked at the high density of areas. We need to remember that crime does move. So there are some areas that are covered that are slightly more residential, but we are trying to protect those areas. So it's been that place. I think it's in the appendices there. You'll see the area highlighted in yellow.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. I've got some comments rather than questions, so I'll be guided by you if you want to take questions first. Or...
Councillor Mulhern, do you want to ask your question then first?
Cheers, Chair. Thank you very much. It was just seeking some clarity because I wasn't sure whether I misheard something earlier or not. But when you were talking about the peak times and the amount of crime that's happening at those peak times, particularly on Friday and Saturday, did you say that that Derbyshire Constabulary had on average 10 officers on duty at that time, or am I mishearing something?
No, that's correct. Just within the city centre, we have 10 officers, 1 sergeant and an inspector.
Thank you.
Councillor Barton.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Listening very carefully to what's been presented to us and reading the documents we have and the data therein from the police, and indeed the email from Aaron Kirkham, our community safety manager, when you think about it, to be a safe and sustainable city, particularly at night time, I think is crucial for Derby as a city. And I think it would be silly of us, in fact irresponsible of us, not to proceed with this order, renewal of the policy, because it protects the public, it keeps people safe, particularly obviously during the nighttime economy, and I think we're being a responsible council by renewing this policy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson, over to you.
Thank you. Yes, I take a slightly different view. I do tend towards the pub watch view and that of other cities who've moved on from these, such as Brighton and Nottingham. I think we're aiming for a sweet spot between ensuring that we've got a critical mass of pubs, bars, licensed premises in the evening that's large enough to create a vibrant nighttime economy and a choice for people, so that there's a range of things and places for people to do in the nighttime economy. And we don't want to be creating any barriers to regeneration or sending out the wrong message that Derby is closed to new operators or putting off investment in regeneration. So we want to make sure, obviously, that it's safe for people, because that would undermine the whole point of developing the nighttime economy. So we want a good, lively nighttime economy that's large enough to attract people here, but that's not an over-intensification. I think some of us can, thinking back to the 1990s when we were a little bit younger, Derby was a very lively place at that time and had a really great nighttime economy. Where we are now, we've probably got about half the number of licensed premises that we had at that time. And the world has moved on. We've had the cost of living. People haven't got the disposable income that they perhaps once had. There's been COVID. People have changed their habits. So I think the world has moved on a little bit since when we considered this policy last time. Very happy to keep it under review and to reconsider again if things change. But the statistics which have been referred to by the police, there will obviously be issues, but it's about because it's a city centre. Every city centre in the country has those same sorts of issues. But there's also more police resources in the city centre in order to manage them. And it's perhaps easier actually for the police to manage antisocial behaviour and the impact of licensed premises if it's concentrated together rather than being spread out over a wide area. And I do think this can be a little bit of a blunt instrument in some ways. The only change, as we've heard, it's not a block on new premises opening, it's a prompt to members of the licensing subcommittees to consider the cumulative impact when we're looking at licence applications. And I think we do that anyway because we look at the individual circumstances of each application that's put before us and we look at it on its merits. So to me, the more important thing than the location is actually how the establishment is run, and that's about the experience of the licensee, the training they've had, the policies that are in place, how that's passed on to members of staff and how it's put into practice. So it can, to me, the more important thing is to, where there are issues with individual licences, for them to be dealt with in a targeted way. And as a committee, we do have the power to review licences and call those in for review if there are issues. I can't remember the last time that was done personally, maybe a few years ago. So my preference would be to, rather than looking at a blanket policy, but would be to looking at the individual establishments and dealing with issues that arise from individual establishments by means of review. Thank you, Chair.
Who's got the phone on? After I've said 3 times, can you please switch your devices off? Would you like to say anything in response to Councillor Rawson?
Yes, I disagree that holding everybody together would be, in a concentration of it, would be easier to deal with. We know that it's harder. We know that we get groups winding each other up. A concentration of alcohol-fueled violence causes more issues, so spreading it out, spreading individual venues out, actually, we know makes better sense in bigger cities where they have more space, and between licensed premises we see less crime and disorder because people aren't on top of each other. In Derby, as you know, the nighttime economy is very compact to a couple of streets, so the fact that we're having to put out 10 police officers to those few streets within Derby City is telling of the level of crime we're receiving.
Thank you. Councillor Repton.
Thank you, Chair. Like Councillor next to me, Councillor Bolton, I'm generally supportive of the CIZ. If something's working, I don't think we should change it. The majority of the incidents, crimes and antisocial behaviour occur in the southern part of my ward, of Darley Ward. And I know that people within my ward do have concerns about coming into the city centre on a night. And we need to offer that reassurance. that we're all collectively, that's the council, the police and councillors, on top of these issues. It's not about being a killjoy. There's plenty of establishments in the city centre in a concentrated area to go out to enjoy oneself. And I think the measures that we've had over recent times with the CIZ have helped keep on top of the amount of crime and antisocial behaviour in the area. And I support it, as do, I think, the majority of my constituents. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay. I'll move to the recommendations then. There's no hope. Right, recommendation 2.1. Offers a recommendation to retain the CIZ and the documented Appendix 1 be approved to take effect from the 1st of April 2026 and published accordingly. We all okay with that? Yeah. Anybody against? Sorry. 2 against. No, I think if there's any 2 against, that's passed. Thank you. Recommendation 2.2, that the committee consider the content of this report and recommendation at 2.1 and decide on one of the following options. So that will be A, publish a statement that the authority remains of the opinion that a CIZ is still needed. Agree? Against? 2 against. Thank you. 2.3, to authorise licensing officers to consult with Pub Watch and the Constabulary to develop a draft targeted alternative framework as proposed in 4.2.2 and 6.2 and bring a feasibility report to a future meeting, which I think is what you were asking for anyway. Yeah, we're all happy with that. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on to item 6, review of the 5-year rule for private hire vehicles. Angela, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This report concerns the review of the 5-year first licensing age limit for private hire vehicles, introduced under the Derby City Council Taxi and Private Hire Strategy 2020. On the 26th of June 25, following consideration of the petition submitted by the private hire trade, this committee released the subject for a 12-week consultation period which ended on the 5th of January 2026. Members of the trade, as well as trade representatives, vehicle owners and operator bases, were made aware of the consultation by letter, email or their preferred way of communication. It was also made available by way of an online survey via the DCC consultation portal. Hard copies were also available upon request, but none were needed. The results of the online consultation are fully contained at Appendix 1 of this report. A snapshot of the online responses showed that there were 833 total responses, of which 44.3% were trade, 55.7% were non-trade. Of that, 59.2% preferred removal of the age limit, 29.5% preferred changing the age limit, and 11% preferred retaining the current 5-year rule. Of those favouring change, 79.9% preferred 9 years, 14.6% preferred 8 years, and 5.4% preferred 7 years. A summary of the postal and email responses are attached at Appendix 2, with that set of respondents referring to the alignment with the age of the Hackney carriage. The focus on emissions in that Euro 6 compliance is a more relevant measure than vehicle age, as older vehicles can now reach the required level of environmental standards and are mechanically sound. They also cited the economic barrier, referring to the high cost of vehicles under 5 years, noting that the current economic climate makes this a financial burden to small businesses in this current time. While some individuals in this group advocated for the total removal of the age limit, the consensus among those suggesting a specific figure was an extension to 9 or 10 years. A detailed submission from Derby Area Taxi Association was also received and is there at Appendix 3. The summary of that is that a vehicle's registration date is not a reliable indicator of its mechanical condition or safety. Secondly, the current policy can lead to identical vehicles being treated differently solely because of their registration month, which they view as an artificial distinction that does not reflect real-world risk. Number 3, restrictive local rules create an uneven playing field. Drivers may choose to licence their vehicles with other authorities, known as out of area, to avoid Derby's strict requirements, which weakens local oversight and accountability. And lastly, the association emphasises that the 5-year rule places a disproportionate financial burden on owners / drivers and those nearing retirement. They argue that well-maintained older vehicles are more financially sustainable for many experienced drivers. The overriding recommendation from data would be the removal of the age limit conditional on vehicles meeting DCC's vehicle standards, and as long as all existing condition and compliance controls remain, removing the age limit will not lower public safety standards. The recommendation today is that the committee consider the responses to the consultation contained in the appendices attached and approve one of the following options: retain the current 5-year age limit, remove the age limit entirely, introduce an alternative age limit, for example, 7, 8 or 9 years. And that is the submission, Chair.
Councillor Cuss.
Thank you, Chair. I have some concerns with the report presented to us tonight. I would like to draw everyone's attention to Appendix 1, page 2. It states, there was 508 anonymous and 1 registered user completed a survey on Let's Talk Derby. This could contribute to completions using the same device, for example, a workplace or home, or repeated completions by an individual. No further information regarding IP addresses is available. So this shows that one person can submit multiple entries into the data and it will be counted. With this in mind, I contacted the officers and found to get some more information. They confirmed that one person could submit multiple times online and it will be counted, and that I then asked for some more data. So I asked for the timestamps of the submissions, along with question 5, which states, thinking about the age limit policy for private hire vehicles, do you think it should remain the same, be removed entirely, or adjust to a different age? With this, I found several spikes in data entries which indicate possible but invalid data entries that would skew the consultation results. Example of this, so post the first 2 days of the consultation, because you expect a spike anyway, because it's released to the public and people can put their opinions forward, all the way up to the 24th of November, the average submission per day was 7.3. However, if you have a look at 25th, 26th and 27th, there were massive spikes in data. On the 27th, it jumped up to 102 responses, all the valid votes voting one way. And looking further at the timestamps, 94 submissions were submitted between 6:35 a.m. to 7:16 a.m. So within 41 minutes, you had 94 submissions. And then this happened again on the 26th of November, between 8 minutes past 5 and 5:39. So 31 minutes, there was 62 responses. Again, all the valid responses went one way. These were only a few examples that I found in a short amount of time because I only received this information early on today in the afternoon. So I haven't analysed fully any other spikes. However, this doesn't add up to me. So we've highlighted the very possibility of multiple submissions from an actor, actors, or even a bot. And analysing the data shows that it's very likely, that it is very likely. I question tonight, with this evidence, if this can be really presented to us tonight as public opinion. Therefore, I recommend that we go back to consultation with the proper measures in place to only allow one person to submit one response. Thank you.
Do you have a seconder for your proposal? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I've not seen that raw data or the spikes that have been quoted, but what I would emphasise is that the report itself, yes, it does include the consultation responses and the other recommendations from those, but the body of the report also focuses on our assessment of vehicle age, our inspections and safety. So the consultation is only one element of the other recommendations within the report before you. There are limitations. Should we go back out to consultation, we're not able to, the only way we can limit to one response is to ensure everybody signs up to, can't remember the official council one, your say mechanism. That may dissuade people from actually responding to the consultation, which was intended to be anonymous, and we may find ourselves in exactly the same position again following a further review. There are also implications for GDPR and data protection. We're not able to ask people for their details if they wish to remain anonymous. So again, that would be a barrier to redoing the consultation. So from my perspective, yes, there may be questions regarding the consultation responses, but the report itself is not solely focused on the consultation.
Councillor Cuss.
I would like to argue that, yeah, we may have a lower response rate, but at least we know them responses are valid. And of course, we would have a lower response rate because we won't have a bot or an actor submitting multiple times. Thank you.
Councillor Bolton.
Sorry, Chair, I did find it a little bit difficult to hear what Councillor Cuss was saying, but I did hear him mention some November dates. But the online consultation took place between the 4th of December and the 5th of January. So where does November? Am I missing the plot here a bit? I didn't know it happened in November.
Sorry, Chair, just to clarify, in terms of the consultation, it took place between the 4th of December 2025 and the 5th of January 2026. It may be that the dates quoted were misquoted, but I'd pass that back to Councillor Cuss.
I question the data that have been received today from officers then.
Are you able to clarify the data given to Could we just take a short adjournment while the officer finds her notes, if that's okay? Could we clear the gallery, please? Oh, right, thank you very much for that adjournment. And I think we can now clear up it was an administrative error on the papers. Do you want to clarify, Angela?
In paragraph 4.8 of the report, where it states consultation responses, that paragraph should read, the online consultation took place between the 13th of October 2025 and closed on the 5th of January 2026. And that allows for a full 12-week consultation period.
Okay, so that's answered Councillor Barton's question. So now we go back to Councillor Cuss.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. Yeah, with that in mind and with the data that I've highlighted, I would like to ask the committee if we can go back out to consultation where we have one response per person, and we'll have a better outlook of the public opinion. So yeah, that's my recommendation.
I'll second that.
Councillor Khan, then Councillor Pandy.
I think Councillor Cuss, I don't know, the consultation is here in front of us. Yeah, okay, they made an administration error, yeah, which has been accepted. Yeah, but if you went out of consultation, how does he suggest, has he got a model there to have a rebossed consultation paper? How does he suggest a fairer consultation with all this data protection and everything? Or is the officers are going to let us have the rebossed consultation online, the next one? Thank you.
1 minute, Councillor Cuss.
Sorry, yeah, if I can just respond to that. It's already been highlighted. It can be done where you register online before you can submit your consultation vote. So that means when you register, you can only submit one entry. At the minute, as it stood, you could go on multiple times as one person on one device and submit multiple times. And as it shows, you had over 100 responses in one day, all voting one way. And some of the responses, you had 62 responses within 31 minutes. So I question the survey, what went out.
Councillor Pandy.
I was seconding what the recommendation, but I would add on, if these consultation, not only this, but any consultation which council puts out, if they have to be legally binding, then as a council, we have to find a way to make them robust, and we have to make them, we have to change it so they are reliable, they are legally binding. If they can be fudged, the data can be fudged, then what's the meaning of these consultations? It has no meaning.
Just to respond to that, Councillor Pandey, the consultation isn't legally binding. No consultation that's carried out by the council is legally binding. It's just intended to be a snapshot and it's just a small factor of the overall considerations. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, that was my point exactly. Consultation is never an attempt to determine what public opinion is. All it is a reflection of the people who have the views of the people who've responded to the consultation. So you could go round and round asking the same question, and the answer would depend on who responded at any given time. It's one factor, one piece of evidence that it's us as members of this committee that are here to apply our judgment, and Councillor Cuss has raised a good point about the reliability of data, and it's up to us to apply our judgment to that and to apply a level of curiosity and scrutiny to all the data that is presented to us, and then use our best judgment based on everything that is included in the report, and the consultation is one small part of that consideration, Chair.
Councillor Repton.
Yeah, I'd like to get back to the main recommendations in the paper, Chair. I mean, for me, it's quite simple. We have a situation at the moment that is far from perfect. Taxi drivers can apply to umpteen other authorities in the locality for a licence, which
Can we
would
just
be
speak
as...
on Councillor
Sorry?
Cuss's? Can we just speak on Councillor Cuss's proposal at the moment, not the general?
Well, I think we've spent enough time, with all due respect, Chair, onto that. And once we've done...
Okay, I think it was just highlighting the fact that the consultation is flawed. I think that's what he was highlighting.
Can we have quiet in the
I'll clear the gallery if you're going to shout.
And don't accuse us of anything.
What do you mean accuse you of anything?
It's flawed because we've been corrupting someone.
I didn't.
The implications.
We've got evidence it's flawed. Right, okay. Do you want me to clear the gallery? Do you want me to clear the gallery?
Just don't engage.
Let's get back to the main paper, Chair.
Chair, I think to be helpful, can we move the vote on Councillor Kirk's proposal? I think we take it from there.
Then talk to the...
Sorry, Councillor Lakin, do you want to add anything?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Councillor Lakin, Chellaston and Shelton Lock. I'd just like to take a step back and look at the very general overview. I was a motor vehicle mechanic in the trade for the best part of 40 years.
We're just talking about Kurt's proposal currently. I'll just move to that vote.
Okay, do that, but then please, may I just make an opinion?
After that, do you want to? Yeah. So, Councillor Cuss's proposal is that we adjourn to reconsult. Is that correct?
Reconsult with the proper measures in place to allow one person, one vote online.
So, all those in favour? Yeah. Seconded by Councillor Mulhern. All those against? Okay. So the motion's lost. So now we'll go carry on. Councillor Repton, then Councillor Lakin.
Thank you, Chair. I think for me and for, I hope, the majority of councillors in this chamber this evening, the main issues and problems that we face are this. At the present time, taxi drivers can go outside this authority and they can get a badge to come and work in this city with cars older than 10 years. And I don't think that's in anybody's interest. I think we want to get our taxi drivers registered in this city, and what we want is a fair and sustainable system. We have yearly checks on every vehicle, and I think if we move to a situation, for argument's sake, 7 or 8 or 9 years, as far as I'm concerned, I think that is a reasonable compromise to actually make. It makes sure there's actual safety for the travelling public, and I think it's reasonably fair for the actual trade, and it ensures we don't have taxi drivers going elsewhere where they can get registered very easily and come back into this city taxiing around our constituents with much older cars. So I would propose that we go for a 9 years, Chair. Thank you very much.
Councillor Lakin.
Thank you, everybody. As I was saying, I spent the best part of 40 years in the motor trade, selling both brand new vehicles and second-hand vehicles. I came across quite a few relatively new vehicles that were absolute death traps due to the fact they'd been neglected. I also came across many older vehicles that were in absolutely pristine condition. I don't think age is any actual limitation. I think it's the condition of the car. And as we know, our cars are expected to pass a very strict test. So I would expect when I phone a taxi and I get into a taxi, I know that that vehicle is well maintained. I don't care what mileage it's got on it, as long as it's clean, it's tidy, and it's safe. And I'm fairly well certain of that every time I order a taxi. Now, there's no point in blanketing with a registration plate whether something qualifies or not. I think that we ought to rely on our testers to say whether a vehicle is in suitable condition or not. My own vehicle is nearly 20 years old and it sailed through its MOT last Friday. So I would say remove the restrictions on the age or take it out to 10 years or something like that and let the boys who are testing these vehicles decide for themselves.
Councillor Barton.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think from the outset, taxi drivers do an excellent job in our city, looking after people who are vulnerable, who need to get to appointments, and they do a great service. This is their living. We need to support them and their families. And with the cost of living crisis at the moment, and particularly at the moment with the petrol increase due to the world situation, I think those strains are going to be even more prevalent. What we need is affordability, and we need to support the drivers and their families. What Councillor Repton outlined a few moments ago is the sensible choice. Plus, we have to bear in mind that every car has an MOT. We do 2 checks a year anyway on our vehicles in Derby, and obviously safety is paramount for all our residents. Many taxi drivers live in Blakeries Ward, and of course they come to our surgeries, they come to neighbourhood forums. So we know the difficulties they are having at the moment. And I would be not representing them well if I didn't speak up this evening. I've been elected as a Blakeries councillor, and many, as I said, of my constituents are taxi drivers and do a hard day's work. My concern, as Councillor Repton highlighted in his presentation, are the number of taxis that come in from out of area. Sorry. Have I said something wrong? Oh, thank you. Many taxi drivers from Wolverhampton, Ashfield, and I can name a few more that I can't... Broxtowe. They are coming into the city and taking work away from our taxi drivers. So I think this document is an important one. We need to make a decision, in my view, this evening, and I'd like to second Councillor Repton's proposal for a 9-year age limit.
Just a reminder to the committee that the committee is here for public safety, not as a representation for people in your wards. That's all I will say about that issue. Councillor Khan.
Yeah, you mentioned public safety, and public safety has been mentioned in this report quite a bit, yeah? So when we talk about public safety, Derby is our city, and we've got drivers from all other towns and counties driving in our city. So how do we give surety to our public in the city that they're safe and within them other taxis which are from outside the town? So, and we are being very harsh on our taxi drivers than people that drive from outside in our city. So either we make the same rules for the people from the outside the city, same as us on safety. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Rawson.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm not going to repeat what other people have said, but I agree largely with other members of the committee. We do have to get the balance right, obviously, between safety and sustainability of the trade, to make sure that there is a taxi actually there for members of the public when they ring up and call one. And we are in danger, I think, of forcing people out of the trade and causing that to be damaged unnecessarily. We've got a lot of evidence in the report in terms of meeting environmental criteria and the safety of vehicles up to 8 or 9 years old. As Councillor Lakin said, even older vehicles. Depends on the vehicle itself and how it's been maintained. So it is a little bit arbitrary to to bring in a limit based just on age. There are other measures in place which make sure that taxis are in a good condition, and if we set the bar too high as we have in the past, it's my view that we drive away, pardon the pun, the drivers to other local authorities where there's absolutely no ability to keep a check on the quality of those vehicles. So I definitely support a change, and I would go for 8 or 9 years, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, so any more speakers? Councillor Mulhern.
Yeah, cheers, Chair. We're hearing an awful lot about livelihoods and income and losing potential drivers to other city, but nobody has yet spoke about public safety. That's what we exist for. That's what this committee is here to do.
Can we keep quiet, please, for the final time of asking?
If we vote for an age limit of 9 years, we will be putting the people of this city at risk. We will be putting their health and safety at risk. The evidence is clear from the reports in all the appendices that this will put people at risk. Every single member of this committee needs to remember that your number one role is to protect the people of the city and ensure that they're safe. I think you all need to be reminded of that. And stop listening to the chirping voices in the gallery.
Can you please be quiet from the gallery? Thank you. Before I move to the vote, I just want to read out 4.18, which says implications for age limits. The inspections data indicates that 7 years, it's page 5, 7 years represents the point where defects start to rise more noticeably. 8 years sees more frequent advisory and occasional serious failings. 9 years shows a significant increase in serious safety risks, with nearly 3/4 of suspension failures found in this age group. So if you are proposing 9 years, you are proposing that a vehicle with increase in serious safety risks, and that car will be on the road for 6 more years. I'm just making everybody aware of the papers. That's fine. That's all I wanted to do.
Sorry, before we move to the recommendations, I am aware that a block email has been sent to some members regarding this policy. I just want to remind all members that any decision reached today must be made by considering the published committee reports and any representations made during this hearing. Thank you.
Any more speakers? So the recommendations are 2.1, that committee consider the responses to the consultation contained in the appendices attached to the report and approve one of the following options. So option 1, retain the current 5-year age limit. Nope. Option 2, remove the age limit entirely. So option 3, I feel like we're going for, introduce an alternative age limit, 7, 8 or 9 years. So can I have a vote on 9 years? Okay, that's carried. Yes. Are you going to be leaving the gallery before we carry on? Shall I wait for you to leave? Are you carrying on? Okay. Moving on to item 7. Attendance at Hackney Carriage and private hire trade engagement meetings.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So, Chair, members, this report follows a request from committee in September 2025 to formalise a framework for how we engage...
Sorry, can you just wait? I did ask to leave before.
Thank you, Chair. So, Chair, members, this report follows a request from the committee in September 2025 to formalise a framework for how we engage with the Hackney carriage and private hire trade. The objective is simple: to protect the integrity of this committee's decision-making and ensure we maintain the highest standards of transparency and impartiality. Following extensive governance and legal advice, the report before you seeks approval for a protocol where only appropriate officers will attend trade meetings.
Can you please exit the gallery quietly and quickly? Any more? Thank you, Paul.
Okay. So following extensive governance and legal advice, the report before you seeks approval for a protocol where only appropriate officers will attend trade engagement meetings. Whilst the licensing committee plays a pivotal role, that role is a quasi-judicial role. This means we must act like a tribunal, impartial, evidence-based and free from any perception of bias or predetermination. By moving to an officer-led model, we create a single, transparent channel of communication. Officers will listen to the trade, record their concerns, and report back to this full committee so that every member receives the same information simultaneously in a public forum. We are guided by the gold standard of local government governance and key legal principles, specifically Porter versus McGill, which warns against apparent bias. If a member attends an informal meeting with the trade and then votes on a related policy, a fair-minded observer might conclude their mind has already been made up. This protocol is designed to judicially review proof our decisions and protect individual members from allegations of impropriety. We recognise that members have a duty to their wards. However, as every ward in Derby has more than one councillor, the protocol advises that licensing committee members should direct trade-specific concerns to an alternative ward representative. This ensures the resident is heard while protecting the committee member from being tainted by information outside the formal process, which would otherwise disenfranchise them from participating in eventual decisions. The recommendations at 2.1 and 2.2 are before the committee for approval.
Any questions? Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just ask the officers, why has this not been brought in previously? Because obviously, I think in 2019, trade meetings were chaired by the licensing committee, by chair of the licensing committee. And the minutes of those meetings, which I've looked on the website, show that council is actively managing governance risks and preventing discussions of matters that would prejudice future decisions in those minutes. So this demonstrates that engagement can take place responsibly without compromising impartiality.
Unfortunately, I'm not able to comment on the processes that were in place in 2019. In terms of bringing this matter now, it's followed a number of discussions within the chamber. If we recognise today the legal advice before the vote was taken today, the conversation at the committee meeting in September regarding trade attendance, and at the previous meeting, I think it was April 25, where again the head of legal services needed to emphasise the point regarding predetermination and bias following contact from the trade with all members of the committee. Having, as I said, reviewed the process for that trade meeting and discussed it with both democratic services, governance and legal, this was seen to be the most appropriate way to safeguard any of that risk of predetermination and bias.
Who from legal did you consult?
It was the head of legal services, Olu Iduru.
Because he attended those meetings as well in 2019.
I can only go on where my current conversations are and the discussions I've had and the advice I've received.
Councillor Rawson.
Thank you, Chair. This really does seem ridiculous to me. What the paper's saying is that members of this committee can't have any conversation or dialogue with members of the trade. That's what it's saying. And to me, it's a core part of our role is understanding the issues and the concerns that the trade have. They need to be brought to our attention. And to me, the best way of facilitating that in a formal way and in a way so as to protect members of the committee is to have a formal meeting with the trade, with officers there, so that everyone knows what was said. It can all be done openly and transparently, and yet the recommendation seems to be completely the opposite to that. So I really don't understand where it's coming from. Planning committee managed to have site visits where those of us who are on planning committee meet with applicants, discuss their application on site. We can ask questions. There are officers there to make sure that everything is above board and can intervene if necessary. And I really don't see the difference. To me, a formal meeting with the trade that's set up formally through the structures of the council, with the opportunity for any member of the committee to attend, with the trade there and doing everything openly and transparently like that would seem to be exactly the right way to do things.
We can't speak on behalf of Olu, but Olu's initial response was that it should be for chair and vice chairs to attend only. And then members, who was it? Democratic Services refuted that and said nobody should attend. So we are where we are. However, I think now the minutes of the meeting are published for all to see, and I think in the past that hasn't happened. So it's the same as receiving emails. We had the last committee where some people were found to be answering those emails, and then they had to recuse themselves from the debate and the vote. And it's literally to stop that kind of event occurring. We want to be here, we want to have the debate, we want to have the vote with everybody in the room, don't we? I'm only going on this advice, and this is legal and governance advice.
Thank you. I still can't understand what's changed from 2019. When I'm looking at the minutes here, Councillor Mick Barker was chair.
Yeah.
Councillor,
I
was
also
on that
attended.
As well.
Yes, I did as
Paul
vice
Pegg,
chair.
Jed
It was
Potter,
chair
Reece
and
Skelton.
chair and vice chair.
Also, Olu was on there. So
at the time, it was chair and vice chairs that attended, and well, like I say, it's not Olu that's made that decision. Olu suggested that, and it's Democratic Services that has overruled that. So that might have been Olu's decision at the time, and it still was this time, but it's been overruled. And I think rather than compromise any of us, we can read the minutes, and officers always come and tell us what's been said, what, if anything, needs to bring into the committee anyway. It's always been the same. You're not missing anything by doing that. All you're doing is compromising. Councillor Ball.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Like Councillor Rawson, I'm on the planning committee, and I have been for a while. We have site meetings, as Martin has said. We do not have a dialogue with the applicant if we go on site. We make no decisions on site. We are there to learn and listen. And that's what I think we should do with the taxi trade. We go and listen, we observe. We don't make any decisions. We don't make any, in fact, when I went to the meeting, I made no contribution whatsoever. I listened and learned, and I observed quite a lot, actually. It was a very interesting meeting that I went to. Nevertheless, we've got this paper in front of us this evening, and it's a real shame that under 2.2 of the recommendation, it says members' attendance at meetings between trade and officers may be perceived as interference. Well, dear me, what a terrible word to put in a recommendation. We have been elected as representatives. We are there to listen to people, not only in our ward, which obviously I've been picked up on tonight. I'm not here for Blakery's ward, I'm here for the city. Yes, I am. We have surgeries, we have neighbourhood forums, we have community meetings, we have people come to our neighbourhood board about taxis and about our surgeries. I don't comment. A colleague of mine in Blakery's is a taxi driver. He doesn't comment. We're not silly people. We know what we can and what we can't do. Why is it then that on the Conservation Area Advisory Committee we have councillors who sit on that and also sit on the Planning Committee? What's the difference in that? When they come to planning committee, they hear the same recommendation.
I don't think any of us can answer any of those questions that you're asking.
If you'd let me finish, please.
Because we don't know.
If you'd let me finish, please.
Yes, but you're talking about things that
I have made an example of the Conservation Area Advisory Committee, which is a meeting of this council made up of various historic architectural groups, and members of the committee go. I can name a few members who sit at that committee, and then they come to planning committee, and the same applications. So what is the difference between attending a CAC meeting and attending the planning committee? I think here, this report ought to be thrown out this evening. Whoever's written it doesn't exist in this world.
So this is against
Councillors
legal advice.
Councillors are here to be transparent, to look at good governance and to be fair. By not speaking at those committees, we are not showing any bias, because we are not there to vote. The vote is carried out in this meeting, or as the example I've given in the planning committee. Listening does not equate to agreeing. Engagement does not equal predetermination. And that, I don't think officers understand that councillors have a role to do. It feels as if, reading this report, the officers don't want the councillors there because we interfere, as it says in 2.2. The officers don't like the councillors being there. That's the top and bottom of this. The councillors aren't welcome at these meetings. But we have a job to do. We are elected by our people in our wards and by the city. We need to know what's going on in the trade. We need to know what's going on in various sections. But I think the meeting that I went to needs to be chaired by somebody independent, not by the officer taking minutes and chairing it. It needs to be totally somebody independent from the trade and somebody independent from the department. That's one fact that I'd like to put forward. But this wasn't on the work plan. This hasn't been on the forward plan. So really, it ought to be ruled out of order this evening. Thank you.
We also don't have to have trade meetings at all. Could I just point that one out as well? It is not a statutory requirement to have trade meetings. So you know, we do it, but we don't have to do it. But
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight to members that the reasons for the recommendation, one of the reasons is the proposals that are made within the report do align with the local government association guidance. So it's not, you know, a decision that the Derby City Council have just, you know, just pulled out of the air. There is reasoning behind it, which is outlined in the report.
Sorry, Chair. I just want to say that actually I think I will be voting in favour of the recommendations, and I think it's important to remind everybody that I think that officers of this council are trying to remove the chance for any political bias that might exist. I think it's just important to get that on the record, that this is why this has been potentially been brought.
okay, so Councillor Pandy's recommended move to the vote. Okay. So recommendation 2.1 to approve and adopt the protocol set out in Appendix 1 regarding member attendance at trade meetings. All those in favour? (2.2) to note the revised guidance set out in Appendix 1.
You haven't taken votes against.
Sorry. Start again. 2.1 to approve and adopt the protocol set out Appendix 1. In favour? 3 and against. Okay.
What's the result?
That's
5 against. Yeah, 5 against, 3 for.
Right.
2.2 to note. 2.2 to note the revised guidance set out in Appendix 1 confirming committee member attendance at meetings between the trading officers may be perceived as interference with the regulatory process, compromises the impartiality of such members and would result in potential disqualification of decision making. So you're aware of that process? Okay. Okay. Item 8 is Licensing Committee Forward Plan.
Dare I say a nice, easy one to end on. Okay, won't necessarily go through the report. This report comes to every committee, and its Appendix 1 is the primary focus for members to review what's on the forward plan and make any suggestions or recommendations for future business.
Any comments? Okay, so 2.1 to agree the work programme and training agenda for the committee attached to Appendix 1. Yeah. 2.2 to suggest any additional items or alterations to the forward plan for future consideration by Licensing Committee. Okay. Okay, I think that concludes tonight's meeting. Thank you very much.